I've told you that, Joe. Very quickly on our Sprint video conference right now, let's welcome in the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, Ray Rhodes, and we're talking San Francisco. He, of course, has many a Super Bowl ring on the staff of the San Francisco 49ers. Good afternoon, Ray.
How you doing, Chris?
Well, not bad. You went down, so you got an extra pick for staying, having a pat hand, if you will. But I think you surprised a lot of people, Coach, with John Harris a moment ago.
I'm sure we did. John's a young man we've been studying quite a bit. We've looked at all the defensive linemen around the league and also the tight ends and everything else. But again, this was a draft pick that we really like, and we feel real good about it.
Well, size, I mean, it's interesting. 6'7", 6'8", that's a different sort of player. Size, obviously, on defense, I mean, he's not huge and bulky, but size is something where you look to upgrade. Am I not correct?
That's correct. We had him in a couple weeks ago. He's 6'7½", 287 pounds, and we expect this young man to continue to grow a little bit. We feel extremely good about this guy. We had a chance to look at a lot of tape, and as far as the scouts and coaches are concerned, we feel real good about our pick.
Ray, this is Tom Jackson. When you were studying tape and you looked at the guys, I'm going to ask you to make a comparison. John Harris to Trevor Pryce. What did you see as a difference between those two guys?
Well, again, you know, I don't know if Trevor Pryce has been drafted or not, and I don't think it's fair to talk about Trevor Pryce and comparing John Harris with him. But here's a guy that we feel extremely good about. And, Tom, again, at some point, you and I can discuss this, but at this time here, the young man's still on the board being ready to be drafted, and John Harris is our draft pick.
All right, Ray, you've definitely been a man of conviction, and now you're going straight forward with it. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, Ray Rhodes, and now the 49ers. Here's Gene Washington, former Niner. He'll like this one.
With the 26th selection in the first round, the San Francisco 49ers have selected quarterback Jim Druckenmiller from Virginia Tech. Carolina's on the clock.
A different type of quarterback. I mean, look, the long face, the height, he's more of a Jim Kelly type than a movable Joe Montana and an obviously movable Steve Young.
Well, Chris, he bench presses close to 400 pounds, so he's in there with the offensive and defensive line and working out. That's allowed him to gain tremendous leadership ability. Everybody rallies around him. He's got that big hand. He can really throw the football. Powerful arm. I think, as we mentioned, at the Senior Bowl, he showed he can take a snap from center, drop back 5 to 7 steps, and throw the football. He's a confident kid. He's a guy who I thought got better late in his career over the last 2 seasons. Did not have a great supporting cast. So you said 54% completion percentage. That would have been 64 if his receivers would have caught the football. So I think you're looking at a guy who did not have the supporting cast of a Plummer or a Barnes, but has tremendous physical ability at 6'5", 230, and this kid has a gun.
He really does. And you know, I think he's much more mobile than a lot of people give him credit for. You saw his ability to run down the football. I think Jim Kelly would have loved to have been able to run as well as Jim Druckenmiller. He's a big guy. He stays in the pocket. All you have to do is take a look at what Elvis Gerbeck was able to do in the San Francisco offense. I think this young man has that same type of capabilities. Any one of these 3 quarterbacks would have worked well for him. I think this kid here gives you the physical size that you want and probably could come on a lot quicker. Don't expect a quarterback to step in really in a hurry in San Francisco. Steve Young is there. I think he has a lot of confidence in playing at least 2, maybe 3 more years. It's a perfect time frame, and we just see the San Francisco 49ers continue to just feed that position with quality people.
Well, plus, if you're keeping score at home, Druckenmiller, 13 letters. That ties the record for the longest name in the first round ever by Joe DeLamalure, former blocker of the Bills. Carolina on our mind next.
It's 3rd and long. Clearly, they're thinking pass.
I'm telling you, Troy Aikman's 3rd down completion percentage is out of sight.
They line up in a passing formation, and Aikman is back to pass. He's looking.
He's got a receiver wide open.
He's still looking.
What's going on?
And, ooh, Aikman's down.
Oh, he had all the time in the world. You've got to ask yourself, what was this guy thinking?
Brute, it's all part of the game.
All right, guys. Same play.
The Michelin X1, with a 6-year unlimited mileage tread life warranty, gives you better wet traction than any rain tire, plus Michelin control in most driving conditions. After all, it hasn't rained that much in years.
Emptiness. How can I fill this emptiness?
It's not tricky.
Eat something, like the $4 Turkey Melt BLT combo. $4 for a fresh, hot, hand-carved Turkey Melt BLT side and drink. Only at Boston Market.
Introducing the Ultimate Stuff by Hager. If you only had one thing to wear, this would be it.
Where the hell are my heads? Tommy Spinelli is a hitman who's lost his luggage.
Don't worry about it, all right? He'll have them before he starts thinking. You got my heads and I want them back.
Now, he's out of his element.
Like human organs. Trust me, pal. They don't feel it.
And out of his mind. Joe Pesci. Christy Swanson. And David Spade.
Tell me if this sounds like a phone hanging up.
Yeah. 8 heads in a duffel bag. Rated R. Now playing.
Welcome back. 4.5 hours into the NFL draft, we finally have our first quarterback taken. That would, of course, would have changed, Ron, had Peyton Manning decided to come out. His decision to stay at Tennessee dictating the strategy in so many draft picks in round 1. What do you think, though, of the Niners' pick of Druckenmiller?
Well, I think Druckenmiller is certainly a fine product, and I think it's going to take him some time to really assimilate his skills to the West Coast style of offense. My personal preference as the #1 quarterback this year in the draft was Jake Plummer. I think Plummer's the kind of guy that in the NFL nowadays, you've got to be able to avoid the rush, where I think Druckenmiller's more your prototype quarterback, stand in the pocket, look downfield, and make your read and throw the football. I thought Plummer's the kind of guy that could make some things happen. I think Druckenmiller eventually will become a very good quarterback, but it's going to take him some time in the West Coast offense.
He hopes to surpass the accomplishments of Don Strock and Will Fuhr, 2 other former Hokies, of course, who were drafted and played quarterback in the NFL. Now to our whip around, starting with Mark Malone in St. Louis. Mark?
Orlando Pace, St. Louis first pick and the first overall pick of this NFL draft. He should be heading to LaGuardia Airport and be here in St. Louis later this evening. Since then, well, the Rams have looked at lunch menus and also the draft board and cornerbacks. That's where they look to go in the 2nd round. Now let's go to Hank Goldberg in Seattle.
A series of trade-up maneuvers produced Sean Springs and Walter Jones, cornerback and left tackle, 2 guys who will come in, the impact players right away. The Seahawks think that. In fact, rival coaches think that. I said to one said to me, what's going on there? I said, they're done for the day. He said, thank God. Meanwhile, in the Seattle War Room, Dennis Erickson and young David Bering are looking at the interview that was done recently a couple minutes ago with Sean Springs with a lot of intensity. Let's go to Hempstead, Sal Palantonio with the Jets.
Bill Parcells dropped all the way to the #8 pick and took linebacker James Farrior out of Virginia. But don't expect him to move from the top pick in the 2nd round, and do expect him to go defense again. Now let's go to Andrea Kramer in Tampa.
The Buccaneers bolstered their offense big time with the 12th and 16th picks, taking running back Warwick Dunn and wide receiver Riddell Anthony. Tony Dungy told me the team was sweating bullets on the pick before Anthony when Miami took Yatil Green, but they got their man in the 2nd round. Look for them to go for some blocking help. Now let's go to Linda Cohn in New Orleans.
Mike Ditka thrilled with his 1st-round pick, offensive tackle Chris Naioli. Now he's got 2 early 2nd-round picks at 33 and 39. The Saints tell me they'll go offense with 1 pick, defense with the other, not necessarily in that order. Plenty of players out there Mike Ditka still embraces, including Jason Ferguson, the defensive tackle, and Corey Dillon, the running back. Now let's go to Miami and Chris Mortensen.
Well, the Dolphins stayed right here in South Florida by taking University of Miami receiver Yatil Green. So Jimmy Johnson has had 1 draft pick, 2 bowls of chili. He has 9 picks left in this day, and I think the nachos are coming later. Let's go to Chris Myers with the Dallas Cowboys.
I'd say that nothing hurt the Cowboys more last year than the lack of production at tight end because of injury. So they drafted 6'7", 280-pound David LaFleur out of LSU. They hope that he'll help that offense be more productive than ranking 24th. Troy Aikman worked him out and went to the Cowboys and said, this is a guy I want on our football team. And when they drafted him in the War Room, they were happy to get David LaFleur. Let's now go to Green Bay and Gary Danielson.
Well, the Packers are still waiting, but maybe it's a good time to show the difference between the Green Bay Packers and a lot of the other teams in the National Football League. When you look into the War Room, a lot of people involved. Of course, the community owns this team. And look where the president and CEO sits, Bob Harlan, next to the water cooler. things a little different here in Green Bay. Maybe if Jones sat next to the